I think you're going to see paper assets continuing to drift lower and hard assets continuing to go higher. What you're about to see is a video snippet from inside the boiler room. Every single morning before the open of the US stock markets, I analyze dozens of stocks and then decide on the trades that we're going to look at for that day with dozens of traders. We all get together, execute trades, chat some, and make some money together on a Zoom conference call. Go to thepatterntrader.com/club to find out more. So you can see these are the cues, and you're in this very, very tight channel. I mean, a beautiful, perfect channel. And you can see the symmetry, on the bottom and the top. Every time you hit this area, this is a resistance. And then it goes and makes new lows. So, to me, it's been an open question. Did this put in a bottom and then, we'll kind of sneak out of here. But, right now we're drifting. But again, I could change my mind every hour of the day right now. And that is the danger. When I know I'm in these kind of things, it's really best kind of not to trade. Because I see so many things. I see resistance, but I see support. And then we're really right in the middle of the resistance and support. So, you can drive yourself crazy trying to pick something that, is somewhat arbitrary right now. So what I try and say to myself is, if there is a bottom, then what you want to do is you want to see validation or verification of that. You want to see that in the form of a market kind of making higher lows and higher highs. You don't want to see it just kind of, make a high and then start drifting down again. And that's what it feels like is happening here. We've got this kind of symmetrical triangle going on here. And now it's a question of how does it navigate in this area? That way or that way. And all we, can do right now is be an observer. This is just chop suey. This is 5 weeks of going absolutely nowhere. So, we put pressure on ourselves every day. Why can't we figure it out? Well, because there's just nothing to figure out. It's just, this has just been nowhere. This is at the same price it was 5 weeks ago. So we have to kind of wait for it to kind of show us how it's going to navigate, these areas. It could still bang up here and go back down. It could completely fail here and then go back up. I mean, it's like, I can draw all these scenarios, and I do. And so the real question, is this a bottom? And, typically when you see a bottom, you've got this kind of scenario of lower highs. So even if you got out here, you could still do this. It still might not be sustainable. But the question is it enough just to kind of sustain it for now? Is it enough to give it another goose for another rally, or are we just going to start leaking? And so I go through this every day, and it's, I can take both sides of it. And so I know when I get into these kind of things, that's where it's trouble. So again, what I do is I look at patterns, and then I make a presumption on how a pattern should act if it is indeed, if this really is a classic bottom pattern, then we should start seeing a market bottoming. You don't have a bottom and then it just drifts and drifts. Now, sometimes you can leak all the way here. Maybe it comes there and then it goes like that. So there's all kinds of stuff that can happen. And now, here it is, 5 weeks of everywhere and nowhere. I mean, literally, we're at the same price we were 5 weeks ago. So, this again is in this kind of funky. Now, when this made a bottom right on this line, I was kind of proud of it, that I kind of, suspected this was a low. But this wasn't a kind of low that I was looking for. Even at the time, I said, okay, this looks like it's bouncing, but it didn't do one of these. It didn't put a stick in the, sand and say, okay, that bottom right there. Kind of just closed right in the middle, somewhat arbitrary. And then on Friday, we have this key reversal. So my thinking is it's got to go down before, even if it's going to go up. So this thing's looks like it's starting to leak. It looks like it's kind of putting on a head and shoulders here, and that this thing still needs to come out. You know, this kind of gap in here still looks somewhat in question, and we got to revisit it. But again, what I'm looking at is that, you know, we've had a weak dollar, interest rates have really plummeted, oil's plummeted, and this thing has gone exactly nowhere. So, you know, if those, you know, if that environment can't put it up, you know, it's like, I don't know what is. So again, we've got Fed on Wednesday. There's a number of catalysts to the end of the year, but right now, this thing is just kind of leaking. It's weak. So we have a reference here. And now this is either going to be a busted pattern or, you know, a real pattern. It's just that easy. It's that choice. And we're at a proverbial inflection point. And so now I'm going to see, you know, does this little area hold and we start making it, you know, making it out here? This is going to be my clue. You know, the IGV has really been ahead of things. The technology stocks have been weaker than most. And so the question is, you know, is this a bottom, or did this go and top out and now we're going back into the secular trend? And so, you know, there's just nothing you can do. The market is kind of everywhere and nowhere. And until the market kind of tells me or picks a direction, and, you know, frankly, if we start leaking through these lows, it's going to tell me that, you know, this is not how a bottom behaves. If I see a bottom, the market should say, okay, that's a bottom. So I think the play continues to be, I think you're going to see paper assets continuing to drift lower and hard assets continuing to go higher. That is really the spread. You know, I think you can sell Amazon and buy Steel Dynamics. And I think that kind of relationship looks like it's going to hold for 3 to 6 months. I think that it's, you know, a trend where, you know, inflationary assets are starting to take hold and paper assets are starting to devalue. So this is silver. And, you know, again, I've been wondering, is this a bottom? You know, when we were looking at on the weekly, is this a bottom? And, you know, if a market starts acting like a bottom, then it is. If a market starts not acting like a bottom, then it isn't. It's just that simple. Sometimes we see these patterns, and then we have to see, how does the market behave thereafter? And I think you got to buy silver. I've been saying that for 3 weeks. You're now messing around right at the highs here. You got this little inside bar. And to me, you know, I've been buying SLV calls. So to me, that's the play right now. This feels like this is the play. This is just kind of nowhere right now. Hey, if you would like to trade alongside me every day and join our most prestigious program, then head over to thepatterntrader.com/club for more information.